Good afternoon, everyone. I want to do something that I haven't done for an awfully long time on this channel, which is to do a very simple electronics project. And I have this Ontario Power Generation branded hand-cranked radio with a little flashlight on, which I've talked about here before when I picked it up, but haven't really done anything with it. And this is kind of a fun little thing. Does work, like you can wind it up and the radio works, and more importantly the light works. Well, not very well right now. I need to wind it up a bit more for that. But the light in this has a conventional bulb, and I thought it might be kind of fun to replace that with an LED, and a good excuse to dig around inside this. This thing's been sitting in my car for a while, and is so the batteries, there were batteries in it, I think, but they may be pretty well trashed. So let's get some tools here. Let's see if we can get this thing open, and let's collect some more stuff. Somewhere here I have a spudger. I just want to see if we can get this battery. There we go. Well, they're definitely dead. If you switch the battery over to that. Oh, there we go. They're not. Okay, so they're not dead. I thought they were. But in any event, we'll get those out of there. They haven't leaked. That's the good thing. Get those out of the way. And let's see if we can get this apart and get at that bulb. Now, just so we know where we're going, right? So, two 1.5 volt batteries, so 3 volts is what we're looking at. So we'll want to put a current limiting resistor in the LED to limit the current to something appropriate, you know, a couple hundred milliamps on, 20 milliamps maybe on 3 volts. So we'll do that calculation later. Let's just get this open first, and then we'll decide how to do this. You do want to watch out for not messing up the gearing on that, opening these sorts of things up. I can't remember whether I opened it last time. I did not look up that old video. Given the screws, I think maybe I did. Oh, that was the right one. Let's put this one back in. That, I think, is just the antenna. Might be spinning on the end. It wants me to take that one out and this one. It's fun, we got Sony style arrows. I wonder if we can figure out who made it. Probably just generic. Alright. So presumably we'll have one short one and 4 longer ones in the corner. I don't actually remember taking this apart, but doesn't mean I didn't. Are we missing one? Yes. Alright. Oh, and another one behind the antenna here. Sorry, you're just looking at my hand there. And we'll get this off. There we go. I will probably cut most of this out. All right, there we go. So what have we got? We've got the battery there. Here's the light. So this is presumably will this come out easily? I presume it's nickel metal hydride. This would be the rechargeable battery. This is recent enough that it's probably not nickel cadmium. And we've got this, which is held in place with some glue. Can we pull the... No. Okay, I'm going to go get some alcohol to dissolve the... Well, maybe I don't want to do that. That's pretty well glued in place there. Alright, we'll have to figure out a way of getting that out. Alright, well, I will do that and then come back and we can look at the results. Okay, so I've got it out. We can see a little bulb there and the base. I'm going to bet that, yeah, they're the leads. We can push this right out like that. And what have we got? We've got it soldered onto one end of the connector here. And then we've got, I guess that was just to keep the leads apart while pushing it into the base here. What I'm going to do is desolder these. There we go. More likely to have success with the iron tins a little bit. I haven't been doing many electronics projects lately, so there we go. Okay, so we've got the two leads. I think we'll pull them out. And can we figure which is which? Because we want to figure out the polarity for our LED, and then we need to figure out what our resistor is going to be. So what we'll do is we'll figure out the two leads. We'll put a resistor in line here. We'll stuff it back through, and we're holding it in place with a little bit of tape, which I think is a fine solution. This I think is probably negative, and that's probably positive. But we'll check by putting these batteries back in, and then we'll figure it out. Okay, so I am going to get some stuff, and then we'll get back and have a look at that. All right, so we have an LED. This is a white one, I believe, and we have a 68 ohm resistor, if I remember correctly, which the back of the envelope calculations suggest should be reasonably okay at 3 volts. You can do the calculation yourself. Assume the voltage drop is like, less than 2 volts, 1.8 volts, 1.7 volts, and your current is about 200 milliamps, like I think I mentioned before. That you can quickly calculate what resistor you need. But let's do a couple of things first. So let's put the batteries in here. This poorly designed battery compartment likes to catch, but put these back in. Okay, and we'll turn on the light here. So we should see voltage on these, and my guess is that this was the positive, and I'll just off screen I have a multimeter. So I'm looking at it, and I'm got it wrong. That's the positive. That's the negative. these batteries are pretty flat. I'm seeing 2.8 volts, so we'll just put a bit of red heat shrink on that. We're going to need it in a bit anyway. No, I don't have it wrong. I didn't have it wrong. I just got them mixed up in my mind. Okay, so now we'll need to figure out which side of the LED is positive. The easiest way to double check polarity on an LED is to use a small lithium cell, which is inherently current limited. That's the positive, that's the negative, and we can light it up, showing that the large lead is positive, which is it's supposed to be, but sometimes a diode checker will work too, but the voltage on this one isn't high enough. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to start by putting our resistor, we'll put it on the positive lead. So what I'm going to do is reach in here and find some snippers. We'll snip that off. We'll just do a quick and dirty job on this. This iron is set way too cold. There we go. Not great, but it'll do. Okay, we'll clip this off, and we'll clip the positive side off here, like that. Tin that again. Hopefully it won't be quite as dry as the other joint looks, but again, for this. Okay, there we go. All right. Now if we touch the other side, we should get light. Not very bright because the batteries are dead. Yes, I'll shut that off. And realize that I've made a mistake. Well, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. Will this push through? No. Okay. We will desolder this. Straighten those out a bit. Drop it on the floor or in my lap. Push these through and find that I've cut it too close. Alright, we will go get a different LED and be right back. Maybe we'll put a big one in just for fun. This reflector's not going to do anything. So, spin those out for the moment. That would be a good way of keeping them in place. We can just touch the, so we can just, show that we've got it the right way around again. Push that through. So it's this bottom one we're working on. And we'll just solder that to here. Not good. this needs to be properly tinned. Let's do it like this, the easy way. There we go. Needed some flux to tin that. Now it should take solder. Maybe. Okay. So we got that together. We'll slide our heat shrink over it. And we'll just turn the power on again to make sure we got everything connected correctly. We do. We'll shut that off. And we'll solder these two together. Not being British, I will pronounce solder in the American way. I am Canadian, so up here we're not entirely consistent. Okay, so there we go. I'll shrink this heat shrink a bit. I'm just trying to get it to stay on. I don't really care if it's perfectly shrunk. Better spot to use is this part of the iron, because then you don't risk getting metal on it. Okay, so we've got that there. So what we're going to need now is we're going to need some hot glue, and we can mount this in place. So I'm going to unplug the soldering iron and find the glue gun. Okay, so we're waiting for the glue gun to heat up. So what we want to do is put a blob of glue in here to hold everything in place. Then we'll push this back down here where I broke it out. And yeah, I did not remove this glue that was here with solvent because I was worried about removing the mirror finish from the little reflector. Not that I much care about the reflector being mirrored. It doesn't really matter with the LED, but it just looks a little nicer. And as soon as we've got the glue gun heated up, then this little 20-minute project will be finished up. We can look at the board here. We've got an analog radio chip, because you can see the number of components on here, and this is a tuning capacitor, right? Tuning condenser, not a not a resistor, right? Because the digital tuning would have a potentiometer there instead of a capacitor. We've got a conventional sort of radio switch here, and speaker. This in here is the gearbox, I think, and here we have just a DC motor being run in reverse as a little dynamo, and this presumably is the little nickel metal hydride battery. It's actually a fairly decent and hefty one, but you know, it's never going to be fully charged in this. It's probably sized to handle to dissipate the current from this if it does get charged. And I mean, realistically, it probably lasts a long time. Okay, so I got this. So let's push this in. Get that full of glue. Give it a moment to cool down. And then we have the LED stuck at an angle. Okay. Let's give it a little bit more glue. This glue gun is not totally hot yet. That'll do. We just want that to be relatively stable. And we'll route these wires around here. Slide that down. And then there, well, there's our result. And then just put some goop in the corners to hold it in place. Like that. Nothing fancy. All right, so give that a moment and we can put the screws back in and see how the whole thing did. I mean, we can see, check and see that it works. Yep. Yeah, not perfectly straight, but I'll live with that. Okay. Well, batteries are out. Let's put it in generated battery. Now let's give it a few minutes of a few seconds to start with. All right, let's try the light. There we go. Dim, but it's working. All right. Yeah, there we go. A little bit better. Anyway, so that's a completed project. I mean, I don't think we'll have enough to run the radio.
Would have been a penalty. Like you can tell that they were upset about it, probably in part because Solar's.
So you can see that there's no. So you can see that the radio works quite easily. It doesn't take much cranking to get an analog radio to work. It's got a 3-volt input. I wonder if that would charge the battery. I don't have a convenient power supply here. But yes, that would allow you to charge the internal batteries probably. And yeah, and there we have our LED light. So if you run into one of these, you can see it's replacing the little bulb in it is pretty easy. I mean, in practice, is there really any reason to do this? No, none at all. But it's kind of a fun little project. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.